Make Up Your Power podcast. We are here for day one of the new season after we just came off of a 30-day live challenge, going live for 30 days for my father. We completed that, and now we're back here on Monday. This week, we're going to be covering spirituality, religion, and indoctrination, not as a way to disempower or re traumatize, but rather to educate, inspire, uplift, and empower. I just want to open up quickly before we go any further with just a reminder before we begin that this is a space for conversation and awareness. Nothing shared here replaces any medical, mental health, or professional advice. Always use your own discernment and seek support if and when needed. Feel free at any time to take a pause to reground yourself. We're here as a voice to normalize conversations that have been kept behind closed doors, to help empower the individual to be able to decide your own life through open conversations, laying shame and guilt to rest, and picking up your truth to power. So that's something that I just want to share with everybody to remind you that this space, though uncensored, unfiltered, and definitely taboo, is here to normalize it just for you. So welcome in, welcome in. Tina was a little bit busy today, so she will be back on later on this week. But today it's me and Stephanie joining you. And we have some great things that we're going to be going into today. We're going to begin with Nicole's energy forecast. So, the overarching energy that I am noticing for today is, where is your voice putting truth to power, or where is your voice enabling you to disempower? So that energy feels a little bit of heaviness and a little bit of silliness, but with Uranus being in Gemini right now, we've got Pluto about to go retrograde. We've got some internal, not, I don't want to use the words destruction, but changes that are going to be happening. So, really being mindful on what we put into our minds are what we are going to experience. So, again, that is just our quick little energy moment. Feel free to comment down below. What energy are you possibly feeling? And is it creating a sense of fear and discouragement, or a place of empowerment and peace? Welcome in, Stephanie. Now that I just did that entire introduction, how has your past couple of days been, having off from being on the live?
It's been a little up and down. I'm a little under the weather right now. So excuse me if once in a while I sound like my alter ego Stefan. Um, so, but no, just trying to relax and ground myself and prepare for, this next adventure that we're going through right now.
I'm loving it. Loving it. Yeah, and we have so today we're just getting into the conversation of spirituality, religion, and indoctrination. Now, when we see those words or hear those words, they can be quite triggering, which is why we wanted to have this conversation, right, Steph?
Yep.
To kind of bring some normalcy to it, so then that way people don't feel so maybe alone on their journey through spirituality, and also share with everybody that it's not a matter of telling you what's right or wrong, but to help you just see things more clearly, so then that way you can kind of lead your life. For example, spirituality is an inner journey. It is unique to everybody. My spiritual journey is going to be completely different from Stephanie's. Stephanie's is going to be completely different from the next person, because spirituality is individual, so it is internal. So, your personal connection to your intuition, which is your inner truth, your inner self, and think about spirituality as something that you experience, right? When we get to religion, that is more outer. So that is more systems and structure and shared belief systems. So this is something that you are taught and educated on. Now, when we get to indoctrination, this is more of where we look at programming, beliefs that were formed, say, before the awareness kind of came in. So, what you believe without questioning. So, when I share that, most people aren't consciously choosing their beliefs, they're living what they were taught. And that's what this platform is for, because I know that on my own journey, I was taught religion. I was raised Catholic, and there were beliefs and systems that were put into my life that were difficult for me to adhere to. Now, I want you to keep in mind spirituality, just like religion and even indoctrination, has both light and shadow. That's something different that we will talk about differently on this show. Is that there is a light and shadow in everything, and honoring them both, becoming conscious of them both, and knowing that it creates growth when we can acknowledge them both. So I'd like to take a moment and have Stephanie kind of share her, what is it called?
Purposeful pause.
Yes, Stephanie's purposeful pause. Oh, that sounds so soft when we share that.
So, um, yeah, so you've talked about a lot of, good things just bringing us into what we're doing this week. And so I kind of just want to stop and think about, um, for anybody that's watching or watching later on, what was your upbringing? How were you raised? Was it with religion? Was it without religion? Was it something completely different? And how is that affecting you now, or throughout your life? And so while we're going through this podcast this week, I kind of want you to keep these things in mind, of, what, where are you at now? And are you still there? Are you still where you were raised? Or did something happen where you have now, um, you've changed course? You've found that inner spirituality, or, example for me, I grew up, my great grandfather was a Pentecostal pastor. So I grew up in that, going to camps, and, people were speaking in tongues and, being filled with the Holy Spirit. But that didn't happen for me. And so so then as I got older, that's something that I moved away from, and, going to a Bible church. So just think about these things as, we're going through this week's, um, podcast and our discussions. And, you know, please chime in and let us know, your individual spiritual journey, or just your individual, experiences.
Absolutely, I love that. I love taking that moment and really seeing it from its full lens, because it all carries light. And what we like to share here is, in any of these systems, or um, what brings you joy, what brings you empowerment, what brings you peace, what brings you structure in a way that is aligned with you. Take that from whether it's religion or spirituality. If just take all of those things that will help empower you moving forward, and anything that has you feeling not in alignment with your natural rhythm, leave it at the door. If it's fear, shame, or guilt based, maybe leave it at the door. Just be conscious in the knowing that what our thoughts repeat are what we end up creating. And we just want to be here to support a conscious way, so that way you can intentionally create for what works best for you. Because I believe within all different religions. I mean, I've had experiences through very, very many, um, to Buddhism. There's just so many beautiful things within them all. So just to a
Yes.
reminder, this isn't here to bash any area of life for anybody's beliefs. It's just a matter of owning what is your beliefs, and maybe releasing what's not yours, and being okay with that. So when we mention the light aspects of spirituality, religion. Let's also look at the shadow aspects that can happen. An example could be, and on the beginning of my spiritual journey, this is a personal example of my experience, was just wanting to see love and light everywhere. No matter what the experiences were on my beginning, my spiritual journey, and when you're doing that, you're almost spiritually bypassing the shadow aspects of life. Why, again, we like to really talk about the light and the shadow when it comes to talking about really all things, because we live in a system that was created to be a dual system, a light and a dark, a divine feminine, divine masculine. So then that way we can find unity within that duality. So again, spirituality, if we're just holding on, then we're avoiding our real emotions. We're not allowing ourselves, and I got a reminder of this from my co-host, that when we're on this journey of spirituality and healing, we want to then give those tools to people who may just be on the curve of a transition or an identity change in their life, and we want to just give them the solutions and the tools. However, we have to allow them to go through the emotions and the experience. So then that way, when they come to that place of healing, they have now like embodied the lesson. Seth, can you speak a little further on that? Because I know you know what I'm talking about, because it was very powerful for me yesterday as a reminder.
You are, you've been through this. You have gone through your journey. You've felt the feelings. You've, had the down moments, the up moments, and have gotten through this. And you want to give this to people, and you want them to feel good. You are doing this in a way that you don't want them to feel the pain and the emotions. It's like, here's the solution, and so you can feel better. But that's almost like any other addiction, where you're doing this so you can feel better now instantly, and once that's gone, you're back to where you were. So you have to go through those hills and those mountains and those valleys in emotions, and to be able to heal from whatever's happened. And so you have to just give them those tools to be able to do that on their own time, at their own pace, their own individual journey.
Yes, and that is the true essence of spirituality. So having that reminder, because we can get in moments, where we mean well in our intention. Again, this isn't a matter of wrong or right, because in all honesty, all truths are half truths, because to us, what is very real and is our truth is truly our truth. We just want to help identify what's truly ours and what was a belief system that was kind of put onto us that we're kind of trying to shed. And in that moment, it goes back to light and shadow, right? Because with the spirituality, like by me wanting to just have that instant gratification, give you that heal moment, I'm not allowing the shadow aspect to unfold for them. Because really, when we're feeling those emotions and we're going through, some people call it dark night of the soul moments, that is where we start finding the purpose in the pain. Otherwise, we're not understanding pain, because when that does happen, because we bypass it a time or two, it's going to impact us even more. And if we're not building that resilience in those tools and that mental structure, so that way we're not just living in survival mode either, then we're going to really get slammed harder. And that's a thing even in my parenting as well, that I see is important with leading in in my spirituality, but also allowing and not just constantly throwing so much information at people. So again, spirituality being the reminder that it has both light and shadow aspects, but are they conscious decisions that we're making? So no, give yourself grace. As our other co-host Tina would always say, give yourself grace. You're exactly on time. If we're looking at the shadow aspect, say, of religion, and this was something that I lived personally as well, is this is the only truth. This is the way that it is. without questioning it. So that can create kind of some dis-ease, right? Because as natural beings, we all have different viewpoints and perspectives, right,
Hmm.
Stephanie? What is
Yes.
your take when we get into talking about kind of the shadow aspects of religion?
Oof, that's a tough one too. Um, it's yeah, I agree with what you were saying, even with the spirituals, that it's this is what you're taught, and sometimes it's the only thing that you know, and sometimes you're taught to feel that you can't feel any other way, you can't think any other way. So, you're just going down this path that's been made for you, and there's no veering off anywhere. You know, how you feel, how you speak, how you think. So that is one of the shadows I think that even I've felt with religion.
And when you mentioned that, what came to mind was, would that fall under the umbrella of indoctrination in a way?
I don't know if it directly falls under it, but it leaves it open for it to go there, I think.
Mm, yes. And what we really mean by that is just honoring a belief system or a set of beliefs without questioning them, because we always want to be mindful for our own journeys that we always question systems, because in order for us to be able to be our fullest embodiment, we have to question what feels off to us. And if we just blindly follow, then it could lead to following down somebody else's laid out path that they have, which is very incomparable to what Stephanie was mentioning, and doesn't leave room for what is your path that might have some waves, might have some turnoffs, might have some, overlaps in opinions or beliefs or perspectives. So being mindful that the more conscious we are, we have choices in what our belief systems are. And it's wonderful that all these different structures kind of give us an awareness of what we can experience, or maybe what tools we could use from different religions, or from spirituality, and then making our own way that is uniquely designed for us moving forward. I think that's just kind of the important takeaway, because your awareness starts the moment you start questioning something that you once accepted as truth.
And I want to kind of elaborate on questioning too. It's not always so much questioning what's happening, but are you able to question? So I think that's where
Mm.
it's going to lead from religion to indoctrination, is if you are not allowed to question, even if it's just for clarity, then, you know, that's something that you want to be mindful of.
I love your point to that, because in different documentaries, if anybody's ever watched a cult type or indoctrinated, we want to be careful with words, but
Right.
pretty much practices that became more cult and more controlled. I've definitely watched many of them, and I've watched them in a spiritual lens, religious lens. So just to be very mindful out there, this isn't just a one avenue. This can happen across all, which is again why we like to talk about spirituality and religion, is because in one of the most recent was a spiritual one, and this girl, I don't know, I'm not going to get too much into details, but it was um there was tantra that was involved in it, and they had to fill out all these forms they could not question, nor were they allowed to share any of their tools. And if we are with the best intention, then we will not harbor tools that can effectively help it empower an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And I will die on that hill all day long.
Yep.
I will never hold information that can empower somebody. And that's what we kind of mean in kind of the controlling the narrative, controlling information, right? That is going out. That's kind of where the words kind of cult can come in, or indoctrination, right? Am I kind of falling in that
Yeah.
understanding?
Yep. That's my feeling on it as well.
Yeah, because indoctrination is like a sense of belonging, right? It's stability as a child. It's early identity because, again, it's happening before we're able to question. So it's not that it doesn't start somewhere that kind of gives us an idea. Again, the light aspect of this,
Yep.
and then the shadow just becomes when we can't question, when we're not allowed to question. Um, and religion comes back to is created for community, right? It gives you again structure. It's supportive. Those are again the light aspects, spirituality, self-awareness, intuition, personal empowerment. So take all of the light from all of these things. Just be aware of the shadow because when you can see the shadow, you can see where the growth is. Because with spirituality, for example, if we're avoiding reality, I've done this myself, not necessarily consciously, just thinking that I had to hold this light and that light meant being bright, 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 everything's great. I can still love everybody and have boundaries. So it would be considered avoiding reality, like that bypassing, but the growth is facing the truth. Feel the emotions fully. That's what the shadow allows you to do. In religion, you've got fear, guilt, or control. That's the shadow aspects, right? But the growth can be is reconnecting to your own inner voice and your own personal truth. And I feel like that's very much what we're doing now in a way, And then indoctrination is just blind belief, fear of questioning. Again, give yourself grace. These words can have so much power in them, but when we break them down and normalize them, we take the power away from the words and we put meaning back into ourselves. So look at the growth from it. You gain awareness, you begin questioning, which in turn helps you to trust yourself better, right? So
Yeah.
in relation, when I say that to you, Steph, what kind of um, comes to the surface for you?
We're raised a lot of times to sometimes doubt ourselves and doubt our abilities and our thoughts, and that can be across the board with spirituality, with religion, with indoctrination. And so what I'm loving, like, currently about my spiritual journey is I am going, to my inner self, and I'm learning about my inner self, and learning to trust myself. And doesn't mean that everything out there is, not truth, because it is. There is truth out there, but I need my truth to be able to manage the truth in the world.
Yes.
Amen, puppy.
She was confirming. She
She
absolutely
was.
was confirming. That's what's beautiful about it all is that the spirituality is an internal, it's just like curiosity, right? Why are we made up this way? Why were we created this way? Those whys are really beautiful to sit with and kind of enjoy exploring individually, because just like spirituality, religion, and all the above, anything can become harmful if it's disconnecting you from your own power. So when you're speaking on, I see the truths that are out there, but I want to be in tune with my body so that way I can see how my body responds to the truths that are showing up around me. And then you make your own discernment. Discernment is very, very, very important to have on any journey that you have, because when we have discernment, then we are more in control of how we will respond to the situations, because there's a lot out there, right? We've got social media, we've got so many things getting thrown out at us all the time, every few seconds, that with what spirituality can allow us to do is kind of let that happen outside of us, but stay within.
Right.
within in a way that isn't ignoring what's happening out there, but allowing to sit in whatever our body's trying to
Hmm.
tell us, right?
In the words of my journey, quieting the outside noise.
Yes, because I used to always sing the song "I Came Like a Wrecking Ball,"
Yeah.
and and now I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, we broke all that down. Let's slow it down. Presence is better, so then that way we're finding more of the quality in our life instead of the quantity, and deciding for ourselves. Like, if have some reflection questions maybe to think about. Anybody who's replaying, again, feel free to comment down below. We would love the engagement and love to, if there's anything that resonates with you, or anything you may have questions that if we don't know, we will find out for you and do our best to be able to respond, because this is an open place, safe space. So, a question to maybe reflect on is, what belief have you never questioned?
Mm.
What's one that you just allowed to just, some of them, it is what it is sometimes, or do as I say, not as I do,
Hmm.
or respect your elders. There were ones
Yeah.
that for a long time I didn't question, until one day I did, and then looked at how back ass backwards it is.
Right. Exactly.
So reflect on that question. Do your beliefs empower you, or are they limiting you? Because limited beliefs should always be challenged. So whether you're on a spiritual journey, religious journey, in entwining of both, whatever that journey looks like, ask yourself or challenge those limiting beliefs. Um, because we want to empower, right? Where are you feeling internal conflict? These are things that we want to acknowledge, not ignore, because
Hmm.
by questioning these beliefs, we start to identify, again, like we mentioned earlier, what is ours and what is not ours.
Right. And again, going back, questioning, those beliefs, or, just questioning in general, it should open up, in the light, it should open up a conversation. It's not going to close you down and shut a door.
Right. Because nobody has to be wrong,
Right.
too. Finding that safe space, even if it's just one or two people, to kind of really, quickly, because I've learned on my spiritual journey, there's levels of conversations you can and can't necessarily have. And that can be difficult, but honoring that and being okay with who you can have those conversations with, and you can still own who you are. um but just, what does that look like? Is it empowering you? Is it uplifting you? Is it inspiring you? Or is it keeping you feeling down, confused, disoriented, discouraged? Spirituality does ask for you to reflect on all of those things.
Hmm.
um, Other structures could more so say you just throw it out and somebody else will take care of that. I truly believe that though those systems might work for some people, for me, owning it myself and acknowledging why I showed up that way refers back to what me and Stephanie were talking about earlier, where the spiritual journey, right? That healing aspect
Yep.
that really is pivotal in spirituality is sitting with where you showed up that was creating the circumstances. Where were you allowing victimhood,
Hmm.
to lead your narrative to disempowerment? Right? Seth, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Sometimes I can get on my tangents.
I think it's a lot of, as well, looking inside and where are you blocking yourself? Um, so what am I doing to prevent myself from continuing on this journey? Or am I am I allowing somebody else's journey or somebody else's thoughts to stop me on my journey?
Mm,
So,
yes. Because we do have to remind ourselves, that are we people pleasing or are we authentically living? Because that made a great point. What boundaries are we not setting
mhm.
for ourselves that we're almost allowing in? Um, See, what comes to my mind are structures that you can almost put the blame or the discouragement on.
Yeah,
You
yep,
know what I mean?
yep. I know
Because
what you're saying.
yeah, because I feel like that can happen.
Hmm.
But with spirituality, you gotta own it all. Like,
Yep,
that's the only true way to it. Otherwise, in all honesty, in my perspective, for to be completely transparent, it's false. It's false. It's not really. How spiritual is that? Because
mm-mm.
spirituality is an internal journey, and if there's areas that we're not allowing ourselves to sit with, then we're just overlooking and just putting it out to somebody else
Right.
to,
And then this kind of comes back to something we talked about previously was being uncomfortably comfortable. This is what
yes.
we've known. We're comfortable in this space, but we're not comfortable with some of the stuff, the energies within that space. And it's a
Mhm.
matter of, okay, do I want to be uncomfortable in a comfortable space, or do I want to be uncomfortable, get uncomfortable until I am now comfortably comfortable? That's a lot of comfort. But
Hey, everybody needs a lot of comfort at times. No, but I liked how you said that in the aspect of like you've been uncomfortable living maybe from other people's belief systems and people pleasing systems as
yep,
well. So how about you sit with yourself and be uncomfortable and know that in that uncomfortability you'll end up standing forward and leading and moving forward as your authentic self
yep,
is kind of how I was really receiving that when you
yep,
were saying that. And keep in mind with spirituality or just with anything, again, religious structures, whatever kind of comes to you, um, it's really like an awakening, whether you want to look at it from a religious lens or a spiritual lens. There's a moment that happens when our external world starts not resonating with what's starting to change inside of us. And I believe everybody at one time or another will have that experience, and then that starts creating questions. You start questioning stuff that you once before just allowed to be what led you.
yep,
That's the moment. Like spirituality or any of these kinds of ways of looking at things that help us navigate our journey always begins with an aha moment. Feel free to comment down below too, guys. Anybody listening in, what was your aha moment that either shifted you maybe into religion or shifted you out into spirituality, or what has your experiences been? And how have you been able to find the pain in any of the experiences to become power? Because our experiences, though that they can be heavy, they end up becoming, once allowed to heal and not bypassed, become of service for the world around us. Um, I'm just looking over. Because, well, okay, so usually at this time, we are going to be doing 45 minutes, unless we end up having anybody that comments or wants to join the conversation. Today was a great overview. We kind of talked about quite a bit. We went over spirituality and the light and shadows of it. Spirituality being an individual, unique, one of a kind journey. No two journeys are the same. So leave here knowing that. And the dark aspects of, I mean, the shadow aspects of spirituality are not questioning why you may be repeating certain things that aren't healthy for you, or staying in the light of everything is light, bright, and positive, while not paying honor and time to the shadow aspects that may be circulating in your life, because they need their moments to shine so they can heal and become of service that you can use. And that's the growth that can come from the shadow aspect of spirituality. With religion, we went and we spoke about how that can bring community, support, structures, some systems. Um, that is a light aspect. The shadow aspect could be not questioning the beliefs and the structures, which can lead into ways of indoctrination. Indoctrination also being something that creates some beliefs at a younger age, um, prior to being able to question beliefs. Everything has a light and a shadow. Everything. So, what we really hope to bring in this reflection and in this show is try to look at the light and shadow aspects of everything in life, and then see where the growth is possible when we can observe the two. What are your thoughts, Stephanie, on that? A little reflection.
No, I agree with you. I There is light and shadow in everything, and um, paying attention to both of those and living both of those does cause that growth where you find your authentic self, your spiritual journey, and we're not saying anything is good, anything is bad, one is better than the other. It's your individual journey, it's your path, and we just want everybody to be mindful of the light and the shadows, so you can live a healthy, spiritually healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy life.
Hmm. With clarity, right?
Yes.
Clarity that is clear for you and not necessarily clarity for somebody else. Because we are on a unique individual journey, individually designed for us, which is why there can be a lot of people kind of seeing the breakdowns in some of those religious structures, if because people are wanting more individuality, more oneness, more wholeness, and there are aspects within those structures that do exist. And then there's aspects in those structures that people might be finding more comfort in spirituality. Find what works for you. We
Hmm.
just want to provide some clarity that has worked for us, and it has empowered us to transition. Tomorrow, we will focus more on spirituality, being more of the theme that we talk about, and going more in depth on what is spirituality. What are some tools that can help me dive deeper in my spirituality? And if you join, you'll be able to learn a little bit about astrology and how that plays a part in spirituality as well as psychology. Just different empowering tools, and see what resonates for you. And maybe you might have some new tools for your belt. Keep in mind micro changes, not macro, for every micro change or choice that we do, replacing it with something else, because if we want different in our lives, we have to be mindful and do different. And hopefully, when things come up in these conversations, it can bring moments of reflection, empowerment, and new awareness for you to kind of explore for yourself. Wednesday, we should have Tina back, and she will lead the conversation on religion, the light and the shadow, and provide us with some coaching techniques, and moments of reflection, because we love Tina's reflection. Tina's reflection time is what would be happening over this next minute. So we are missing that today, but she should be right back with us on Wednesday for that. Thursday, we'll go into, Stephanie will kind of lead the show, and she'll kind of share some of light and shadow aspects when it comes to indoctrination, what that looks like. And Then Friday, we will kind of reflect on the week. So we thank you guys for joining us and sharing space with us. Um, we want to make sure that this flows naturally and that we're not forcing words to just keep coming on for the sake of time, because we want the quality of what we speak about, because we speak about a lot, for you guys to be able to take some time to sit with. So I just want to close with another reminder that this does not replace any mental, medical, or health or professional help. If you feel at any time that you need any kind of professional advice, please seek that, and use your own discernment as needed. We just want to provide clarity in a safe space to normalize conversations that once weren't even allowed to be had in public, let alone in private. So, as I always say to you, beautiful souls, if you woke up today, it's because your soul still has purpose on this planet. So, go out there and please live it authentically true to you. Love and light, beautiful souls. We'll be back here tomorrow for another 45 minute to an hour time of awakening truths that make up your power.
See you tomorrow.